continue improving the potential of integrated human resources that are capable to support productivity. This vast and rapid development needs an effective and modern learning solution that can keep up with the routines of today's society. A facility that can cope with the limitations of space and time. For many people, both limitations pose as major problems in developing themselves and enhancing their career in digital era. In the end, those problems will impact their lifestyle. Universitas Terbuka is here to answer those problems by applying an open and distance learning system. A system that has proven effective in increasing the coverage and equal distribution of excellent higher education for all elements of society. Our learning system. Our system allows students to have a flexible and open learning method, and it offers many advantages. First one is the registration period, which is open throughout the year, so no more worry about late registration. Flexible space, time, and place. This is useful for students who still want to develop their knowledge wherever and whenever they want. Easily access printed and digital teaching materials in all corners of Indonesia and other countries. Our system gives opportunity to people from all groups and ages to learn and develop their knowledge, as well as their skills in all fields. With 39 regional offices all across Indonesia and overseas service centers, we are always ready to support operational activities and cooperations with various national and international institutions. We have numerous facilities to support student activities and learning process, from UT Radio, UT TV, learning assistance, to online library. Universitas Terbuka offers you 4 credible faculties: Faculty of Education and Teacher Training, Faculty of Law, Social and Political Sciences, Faculty of Economics, and Faculty of Science and Technology. With more than 35 study programs and postgraduate programs. Universitas Terbuka, making higher education open to all.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to some of you. And very warm message and welcomes from Universitas Terbuka in Jakarta. First of all, I would like to inform you and to welcome you to the AAOU Webinar Series. The theme is Innovation in ODL Post-Covid19. We are very fortunate today because we have very great speakers. But first of all, we would like to inform you that together we ask some rectors from higher education institutions in Indonesia and also former Secretary General of Ministry of Education, Research and Technology of Republic Indonesia. Sorry for the technical problem. And first, we would like to invite the presidents of the AAOU, President of the AAOU, Rector of Universitas Terbuka, Professor Ojat Darojat, to deliver the opening remarks. Professor Ojat, time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Ahmad, and hello, my dearest friends and audience. Good afternoon. This is 1:30 in Jakarta, Indonesia, and Assalamualaikum. And also very good morning for people in other part of the world. Very good morning to Christothea in UK and also Ms. Hosseini in Iran. It gives me pleasure to be able to saying the dearest audience, AAOU, ASEAN, Association of Open Universities webinar today, virtually. And I warmly welcome you all to the third episode of AAOU Webinar Series 2022, Revolution of Open and Distance Learning. As I always mention, AAOU is here, providing a beneficial forum for everyone, not only AAOU community members, but also general audience, including researchers, faculty members, and others who have patience and hunger to know about current issues in open and distance learning, specifically in distance higher education.
Recording in progress.
We hope every single program we initiate will always leave the audience's broader understanding and knowledge on the right issues about open and distance learning and distant higher education or distant educations. First of all, I would like to warmly greet my colleagues, the leaders and committee members of LPTNU in Indonesia. There are many people from UNU University. And then please let me greet our distinguished speakers. First, Dr. Martin Dougiamas, the founder and CEO, Executive Officer of Moodle, very well-known learning platform, especially during this pandemic. Everyone around the world has been taking benefit of this great discovery. I give my salute to you, Dr. Martin, and hope you enjoy your time on our webinar today. And I have already mentioned before, I would like to inform you that my university, Universitas Terbuka Indonesia, that has been regarded as one of the mega universities in Asia, has employed different online learning platform, including Blackboard in 2000s, and then we also use Manhattan Virtual Classroom in 2002. But then we replaced and use Moodle as our new platform since 2004. We employ Moodle 1.4 version at the time, 1.4 version at the time, and so many university. My university, the only distant higher education in Indonesia, has been equipped with by Moodle since 2004 until now, and currently we use 3.9.12 versions, serving more than 1 million students spread out all over the country and also on overseas, about 50 countries. Everyone, today we also have Dr. Christothea Herodotou, the Associate Professor at Open University, UK, United Kingdom. We know that UKOU, founded in 1969. At the time, the name is British Open University, has been perceived as the landmark of ODL in higher education level. So within her expertise in the evidence-based design and evaluations of technologies for learning, online platform, mobile applications, and digital games, we are so excited to listen to her thought on innovations in ODL post-COVID-19, and hope you will also enjoy your time today, Dr. Thea. And this last one should not be forgotten. Another important role who will lead our sharing sessions today, the moderator, Dr. Monirosadat Hosseini from Payame Noor University, Iran. Assalamualaikum. This is very pleased to meet you, and we are pleased to have you today. It is with great expectation the webinar will be a success under your lead. So audience, continuing to the last issue we discussed today, we are about to dive into the discussion of innovations in ODL post-COVID-19. We are very grateful that in most part of the world, currently, COVID-19 cases are relatively going down the surface, and everything has slowly gone back normal. And we are on the way to breathe a fresh air again, hopefully. And this is a crucial time for us to think of new ideas, new insight that could result in new innovations as we are facing the transition for a better learning situations, especially for us, the ODL stakeholders. We should always be ready to create innovations that can support every learners, every teachers, in order to maintain quality educations. Therefore, without further ado, let's start this webinar officially. Stay tuned until the end of the webinar and please be actively engaged. And so you could learn more informations and knowledge. And thank you very much for taking time to attend our webinar. Stay safe and have a good day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, for the motivating opening remarks. So before we go next to the next session, I would like to inform you that based on our record that there are 360 participants registering our webinar. Some are attending through our Zoom, and then the others are watching on YouTube. And of course, we are still waiting for the other participants. Okay, before we start, we would like to introduce our moderator today, Dr. Monirosadat Hosseini. From your CV, I can learn that you took your Ph.D. in Penang, Malaysia. Hopefully you still remember some words, some Malay words. Selamat datang. Semoga selalu sehat. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in my hand, there's a file of the CV of Dr. Monirosadat Hosseini. She's from the Payame Noor Open University, and then teaching is interest in language testing and assessment, applied linguistics, academic writing, research methodology, teaching methodology, English for specific purposes, arts preparation courses. She has a very long experience in teaching, also in research. I'm sure that if you are typing her names in Google Scholars, you can find her publication. And for information, the latest one, let me inform you that in 2020, her journal publication is the effect on online interpretation via interactive whiteboards on faculty learning, published in Interdisciplinary Journal of Virtual Learning in Medical Sciences. So once again, you can search her publication through Google Scholars. But in case you would like to have her publications, you can contact the AAOU Secretariat to have her paper. Dr. Monir, time is short. And then for information that to make it more interactive, in case some participant would like to ask a question, you can check it from the chat room. Dear participants, once again, this is our very important meeting because we will meet the founder of Moodles. And this is a time for us also to thank Martin Douglas for his invention. Through Moodles, we can learn many things easily. And then once again, have a fruitful discussion with our outstanding speakers. Dr. Monirosadat, that time is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Rahmat, for your kind introduction. There is no room for me to introduce myself because you introduced me very directly and precisely. First of all, I would like to express my deep regards and greeting to AAOU President, Professor Dr. Ojat Darojat, Secretary General of AAOU, and other staff who participated actively in organizing this webinar. And also, I would like to express my deep regards to the honorable speakers, Dr. Martin and Dr. Christothea. And also, let me to say very welcome the audience, the participants to this webinar. And I'm very happy and very thankful. I express my great thanks to the AAOU President to give me this opportunity to serve as the moderator in this webinar. Please let me know whether you can hear my voice clearly or not. Is my voice clear?
Yes, 100% clear.
Thank you. I know that all audience are impatiently waiting for the main session, that is the presentation and the speech of Dr. Martin and Dr. Christothea. But please let me to have my role here as a moderator. Before that, I need to start the remind the regulations of the webinar and also introducing the speakers before starting. But as the title of the webinar says, The webinar is the innovations in ODL Post-Covid19. Fortunately, we have almost passed the hard times of Corona, and now in the post-Corona era, the experiences learned at that time can bring benefits to everyone. Actually, we know that. Before the outbreak of Corona, COVID-19, distance learning and the use of online learning tools and platforms might have been just an option by some people who couldn't attend classes due to the problems of business, geographical distance, not accessibility to the face-to-face or traditional classes and the like. But during the Corona outbreak and long-term lockdown, online learning tools and platforms such as LMS were used inevitably because the only bridge between the students and the teachers and instructors was applying online learning tools, especially LMS and the Moodle tools. And most importantly, it was not used only in the higher education like before, but at all levels of education, such as primary schools, higher schools, and the other educational levels. It was used broadly to maintain education and to achieve educational goals. And in addition, these tools not only were helpful in teaching context, but also in assessment and examination. And they needed to have a required capability in order to assess and do the role of examination assessment. And we as teachers and also the students experienced a very high quality of Moodle and even most importantly, LMS. And before introducing Dr. Martin, I'd like to remind you the regulations. Maybe during the speech, you encounter some questions and you'd like to ask questions from the intended speakers. Please ask your questions, write your questions in chat box. But before that, you need to write your own detail, including your name, your institution, and your country, and also mention the intended speaker, the name of the speakers whom you'd like to ask the question and answer you. And after that, maybe I ask the speaker whether they will answer the questions during their speech or after the presentations. After the presentations, the moderator will read aloud the questions and the speakers may answer the questions in the allocated time, maybe after the presentations or during their own speech. But maybe you as the participants would like to get the electronic certificate. In order to get the electronic certificate, you need to fill out the registration form in advance. And you need to follow all the program. And after following the whole program, you are asked to fill out the feedback form. The link will be shared after the program, and then you will ask the e-certificate, and later you can check the website in order to be sure about the issuing of your certificate. Okay, I know that you are patiently waiting for introducing Dr. Martin. Dr. Martin, it is a matter of honor for me. It makes me proud to introduce you, to read your bio and CV, but it is very written shortly because of the limitation of the time. I know that there are a lot of information and CV for you that I briefly refer to them. Dr. Martin Dougiamas is the founder and CEO of the open source Moodle software project, which he started in 1999. The Moodle platform consists of a number of products, but the best known, which is very popular or familiar for all of us, is Moodle LMS, which allows educators in all sectors to create private educational spaces online, filled with tools for collaborative learning. Dr. Martin has a mixed academic background with multiple postgraduate degrees in computer science and education, 2 honorary doctorates, and is a member of multiple boards around the world. Oh, Dr. Martin, congratulations. It's worth mentioning that he continues focusing on researching how open education technology can best support teaching and learning in open and remote ways, with a keen interest in helping to produce a generation that can meet the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Dr. Martin is also on the board of Open Education Global and the founder of Open Tech Association. Dr. Martin, let me to hand over the microphone to you, and it's your turn, and the microphone is yours. Thank you for sharing your experience and knowledge here.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'll carry on, and I don't need to explain myself now. When I was planning what I was going to talk about, I had 2 choices. One was to focus on one little topic and to expand fully and clearly about one topic. And my other choice was to give you a smorgasbord of everything that's going on right now, a lot of things, very quickly. And I've chosen the second. So I'm going to go through a lot of things very quickly, knowing that you will have this on video. If you want to stop the video and read things more closely, you can. And secondly, if you're live in the session, there has to be some benefit to being live. I really want to have some time at the end for questions. So if there is particular things you want me to go deeper into, let's do it in question time at the end. And hopefully that works this way. So if that's okay with you, I'll proceed like that. So let me share my screen here. So I'm a very big fan of open universities. The vision of Moodle is about empowering educators to improve the world with the most effective platform for learning. And that's our mission. And we have a very strong values base behind that. And you can see here, obviously, education, we value education at every level, including right now. We value openness. It's right up there because we're open source. We support open education. We support openness in many, many, many ways, as well as respect for different cultures and approaches around the world. Integrity, being honest, being very straight about how we deal with the world. And innovation is a very strong value in the Moodle project that we try and promote. As I said, we make open source software. We also recently were certified as a B Corporation, which is a public benefit organization. And that means that we are purpose driven. We are not profit driven. And so we're very different from Silicon Valley software and things like that. We're much more aligned with, say, an open university. So the Moodle project, which I started over 20 years ago, obviously we have the Moodle LMS that is mostly what people think of when we talk about Moodle. And there are a number of other bits and pieces that we have. We have services, including hosting and service providers and academy. We have other products such as the app and Moodle Workplace and MoodleNet. I'm going to talk about what's happening in Moodle LMS, a little bit about Academy and a little bit about MoodleNet. Then I want to talk about what's happening for the next 30 years. So Moodle's quite spread around the world. These are some of the recent statistics of Moodle usage in the world. And you can see here, this was from 2020, but in the different continents around the world, that for learning management systems, the orange one here is Moodle, and you can see that it has a very high use in higher education around the world. The place where we have the least is in North America, and that's because there are so many competitors. There's a lot of companies there in the US. but the US is for 4.2% of the world's population. So there are a lot of people using Moodle. So let me very quickly talk about what's happened recently in LMS, and very particularly our latest release, 4.0. And we spent 2 years working on Moodle 4.0, and it was released last month, just over, well, nearly 2 months ago. And what we were trying to do with 4.0 is focus on the number one issue that people were saying was the problem with Moodle, which was the user interface, the user experience. It looks old because it is old. It's a 20-year-old piece of software. And I use a lot of software just like you do, and I'm used to apps and the latest things. We all have very high expectations of our software now. So how do we improve the usability of Moodle? And that was our biggest job. We did a lot of UX research, user experience research. We were working particularly on the teacher journey, so how what it's like for a teacher on a day-to-day basis, as well as the student journey on a day-to-day basis, and navigating between things. How do we know what to do next, and how do we track progress and things like that? So 4.0, we focused on those things, and now we're working on 4.1, and that will be coming in late 22. And there's more user research work happening in some of the activities, global, so things like the gradebook and messaging as well. So a few highlights for 4.0. If you haven't seen it yet, it looks like this now, and you could see probably immediately a number of differences to how your Moodle might look like if you're used to using Moodle already. And I'll dive into some of what's going on here. So there's navigation between different parts of the site. There is a new bar at the top. There's a new My Courses page where all your courses appear on a new special link. And that makes it quite easy to jump between courses and to jump in and out of things. You'll see here in the course there is new tabbed navigation. So this is for jumping between the different sections in a course, like settings and participants and grades and so on. They're now very clearly here and easy to find. The more deeper stuff is here under the More menu. There's a new dashboard, so this shows you what's coming up next. And there was plugins, earlier versions of this in earlier versions of Moodle, but it's been really improved now, so it's a lot clearer for both teachers and students as to what is coming up next over the next week. And it's been improved quite a lot. It does mean, though, as a teacher, you do need to put dates in, due dates for assignments, and you do need to fill in those fields for different things. But once you do, they appear here very clearly. Over on the right, there is a block drawer for blocks, Moodle blocks. We still support them, and it's collapsible though. You can click here and close those things. And over on the right is this new thing. This is a course index, and it shows an outline of the course, and it's very easy to jump between sections of the course by clicking on things here. You can also drag and drop between these two areas. So if you have a long course, you can grab something from the top and drag it down to the bottom very easily without lots of scrolling. And this mechanism, once you get to use it, is very intuitive and to navigate around the course. There's a new edit button up here to turn editing on and off. And you'll notice all the icons are now very colorful and large. These can be customized, these colors. They are special vector images, so they can be customized very easily by a particular site. And it's a lot generally clearer. There's new help for onboarding to show you how to use things. And there's a much better experience now when you're using Moodle on a mobile browser. So if you're in a web browser, you can it looks and feels much better than it used to, and much more, very, very similar now to obviously the main web interface, but you can see here it feels like a nice app. Other new features, there's a whole new report builder. You can build reports by dragging and dropping different columns of data together, and it produces reports. I'll skip over some of this. There's all sorts of reporting features, custom reports. Big blue button is now standard in Moodle, and it's a built-in feature. So you just with any Moodle site, where you get it brand new, you can just start using big blue button for free. It is somewhat limited. So for a whole open university, you won't rely on this. You'll still need to have big blue button servers. There was a question about that. But it is, what it does mean is that the big blue button interface is now in Moodle and being maintained, and is like a first class citizen of Moodle. So that's a good thing. Lots of other features here in Moodle 4, but that gives you a flavour of it. So as I said, Moodle 4.1 is coming with these more features around assignment, around quiz and database, gradebook, and better MoodleNet integration and so on. So while I'm talking about MoodleNet, if you haven't seen MoodleNet, I'll show you live here. I'll go to moodle.net. This is our solution for content, for open educational content. And this is an open source project as well, open source software. Let me log in here to this site. And you can do this. So here's my profile. It's a little bit like a social media site, but it's also a bit like Pinterest. So you can see here, I have a collection of some personal health and fitness links. And there's something here on one about intermittent fasting and 1 meal a day. And I can click in here. And so this is a resource that I've added to this site, and it's actually a YouTube video. But if you are using Moodle, you can send this thing into your Moodle site from here, or you can add it to your own collection. And the nice thing is here, let's look for, I don't know, English, that we have a database of thousands and thousands of resources that are useful for classrooms, and that anybody can add to this, anybody can build onto this database. Even better, Moodle.net is one site, but the software that runs this site is the open source software, so you can run your own and for your own purposes. And very soon, these MoodleNet sites will all connect, and you'll be able to search across all of the MoodleNet sites globally to find content. And you'll be able to do that directly from inside Moodle itself, as well as just going to the site. So that's pretty cool, and it's going very well. The other thing I wanted to highlight is our Moodle Academy initiative, which is a Moodle site running. It's our own university that teaches you for free how to be a great Moodle teacher. We actually have 3 streams. We have the Moodle Educator stream, the Moodle Administrator stream, and the Moodle Developer stream. Most of the content is here under Educator, and we actually have all these free courses, and there's many of them, which tackle all different aspects of teaching online, not just how to use Moodle, but how to manage content and how to facilitate students and how to do all those things. They add up into if you want to take it, a Moodle Educator certification. And here's some info about the certification. You can see here, there are 23 competencies that make this certification. These are not competencies that we invented. These are a European standard called DigComp Edu, and we've just built the certification platform that allows you to be certified for these competencies. And it's a really valuable thing. Getting the certification is not free. It's about 200 euros. But you can learn everything for free, and it's just if you want the certification, then it costs something, because we have to have actual experts actually assess you, right? So it's worth something. The last thing I want to mention here about Moodle is that coming up in September, if this is interesting to you, we are having our global Moodle Moot. That's our Moodle conference in Barcelona, where we are catering for 600 people minimum. And it's a global conference with a lot of Moodle users, a lot of institutions who use Moodle coming together for actually the whole week in Barcelona in Spain. So just so you know that's happening, you may want to come. It's very exciting actually. We're really focused on future designs of Moodle. There's going to be a lot of workshops where we're working together to design the future. So let's talk about the future and some of the things that I've been looking at and thinking about lately. And to me, it's quite helpful to think beyond 2030, not just next year or the next 5 years, but what should education look like in 30, 40, 50 years? Here we are on a small planet. Humanity has found a way to talk to each other with the internet. We're all talking to each other now. What should we be building now for a long time in the future? So let's look at some of the trends. And I'm just going to focus on education technology mostly. Obviously, the world of higher education includes a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues about what is higher education. I won't get too much into that. And I'm not going to talk about all technology changes either, but specifically about where these two things collide, because that is obviously my area of expertise. So if we look at what is happening, though, in the wider area of technology, and particularly education, there's a lot more wearables going on, right? I'm wearing a watch here, and we are wearing technology more. Technology is becoming more something that I'm pretty sure everyone is carrying their mobile phone on their body pretty much all day long now. That's the start. These things were going to be coming more and more into our lives. So some of that will be virtual reality, augmented reality. This is a typical headset. This is actually another augmented reality headset you can buy right now. And the where these things are going is that they will become like glasses. A lot of us are wearing glasses already, so we're already wearing technology. As these things become electronic, we're going to have the internet on our faces all the time. And it's going to happen when you see all these rumors that one of the biggest companies in the world, the 6th biggest company in the world, Apple, who obviously very focused on consumer electronics, are definitely making a augmented reality headset that's going to be coming out next year. When Facebook changes its name to Meta and says they're completely now focused on metaverse, there's something big brewing here. And it's whether you want it to happen or not, it is coming, and it's coming more for consumer purposes. So we need to think about where education fits in here. Now, with augmented reality, there's a lot of use cases like this one where you could imagine you're in a shopping mall. You can easily imagine, actually, that people like Meta and others are going to be working with advertisers to start putting advertising in your field of vision as you walk through shops, right? That's a kind of pretty obvious case with a lot of money behind it, and so they're going to be doing things like that. Whether or not we want it, hopefully we'll be able to switch it off. But that's a pretty easy case that illustrates how the digital world can be integrated on top of our real world. But this is the level of graphics that are possible with hardware now. So this is Unreal Engine 5, and it's just a screenshot from a game demo. This kind of realism of graphics is possible now. So it's only going to get even more common. So it's not going to look like this. It's going to look more like this. And you will be very hard to distinguish the real world from the virtual world as it starts becoming more and more part of our daily reality. Now, this is not too new, right? So we are already looking at devices a lot of the day. We're looking at screens. The digital world is already part of our reality for a good proportion of the day. And it's not a big jump to imagine it in glasses. It's not science fiction anymore. It's just a little step forward. So what's happening in that world, in that digital world? Well, when you're looking into screens, some of the experiences you have are like games. So if you look at games like this one are produced by a team of 2,000 people, millions of dollars, who produce very high quality open world experiences that very engaging. And there's actually a ton of education going on in there, because who ever read a manual to use a game? No one, right? The game teaches you how to play the game as you play the game. So the education of the complexities of a game are something that is taken care of by design. And that's a good lesson for us in education, is that we should be designing our online experiences the same way. You shouldn't have to learn how to use them. You should just, you have to learn, but you should learn from the experience itself. And one of the techniques they use in games are skill trees. And it's very interesting when you look at the skills in games. So you might be learning how to use a bow or something, and getting better and better at it in the game. But that's quite similar to what real life is. Real life is a game of acquiring skills, isn't it? That's the sort of things we're teaching at universities, is students acquiring skills and becoming better and moving towards some goal in your career. So it seems to me that a lot of these techniques used in games are going to be quite useful for the kinds of interfaces that we need just day to day as human beings and citizens. So let me now talk about AI in that role. And once the computers are helping to guide our lives and helping to steer our careers, how far does that go? So let's look at some of the recent research in AI. And this is one group, OpenAI, but there are many. And this is an example of what you can do right now with AI. So this is a commercial website, and I'm not advertising the site. This is an example of a site that is built on top of a particular AI called GPT-3. This is a general purpose algorithm that can do a lot of different things. But one of the things it can do is help you write. So in this case, I wrote a title for an article. What are some of the best ways to teach in 2030? And it suggested to me a lot of better titles, actually. So I said, oh, okay, well, this one looks better. It's actually a bit more clickbaity, right? It's more like an article. So I said, okay, well, that's a better title. I'll use that one. So I accepted it. And now it's saying, oh, here, what's the first paragraph of your article? Now the AI has written all these paragraphs. So I picked one. And now it says, okay, what structure do you want for this article? And here's a variety of different structures. And I can tweak these at any time. I can change some of the headings. I can change that paragraph and so on. Now, once I'm happy that this is the sort of article I want, I hit write an article. And bang, it's now written an entire article. Now, this AI has written it so well that you cannot tell a human didn't write it. And it does this because it has knowledge of basically everything on the internet. And it's not cutting and pasting. It's actually processed through machine learning all of that knowledge about writing into a way that it can write new text on demand about any subject in any language. So if you in your courses are using assignments as a form of assessment, every student can just do this now. And no plagiarism detection is going to work because this is an original essay about that topic. So that's quite challenging. It's like we can't use assignments anymore in the future, right? AI has destroyed that. And this is a trend that AI is actually replacing whole lots of things that we thought only humans could do. So here's another example. The same AI, I've asked it to write a poem about a confused raccoon. A raccoon is an animal in North America, in a computer programming class. I'm not American, by the way, I'm Australian. So let's get that poem. So here's a quick poem that's been written, and I'm not going to read it right now, but quickly. I sit in my chair and stare at the screen. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. I'm just a raccoon in a computer programming class. Now, this is a funny little poem that's been written by this computer. If I just delete that and hit enter again, it'll write me another poem and another poem and another poem, whatever I want, long, short, whatever language, whatever style. The same algorithm, essentially, it's actually called Dolly 2, but it's based on the same technique, can generate images too. So this is a photo of a confused raccoon in computer programming class generated by an AI. This never existed. You can see here the keyboard looks a bit weird because it's grown this image organically using like a seed, and it's grown the image. And this technology here is improving so fast that that even in the 2 months this has been out, it's already been superseded by another, even smarter AI from Google. But here's some examples. This is Elon Musk checking Twitter and screaming in the style of cubism. This is academic researchers before a deadline in the style of Edvard Munch, who did this famous painting called The Scream. This is a squirrel dressed as a Tibetan monk. And I love this one. This is R2-D2 from Star Wars, made from bamboo sticks. This never existed. This is a completely fake image generated by an AI. So if that's happening, and will be happening everywhere, you can imagine that most of the content that we see, most of the information in our world is going to be generated by computers. And there's nothing to say that anything has to be true. This is not true. This never existed. If you're doing research on things built with bamboo and you turn this up in a search, it's not true. So how do the children, our future generations, the kids who are 3 or 4 now, they will never know a world where they couldn't just say to a computer, make me an image. In fact, very soon, I guarantee it, it'll be make me a movie. Generate a movie for me with these characters and this stuff doing whatever I want. Make me that movie. And it will generate a 90-minute movie for you, or a TV series. And back to the augmented reality, it's around the corner that we'll be able to say, generate a reality for me. I love having pink elephants flying around, so let's have pink elephants all the time in my world. And they're just generated in high-resolution 3D graphics. And it's, you've now defined your own reality. So it becomes a very interesting question about ethics and truth. Where do we as educators keep the attention and the focus of the future generations on the things that are true, the things that we have to focus on because the world is in trouble? We have these problems facing us. The Sustainable Development Goals are facing us. How do we solve things like climate change and inequality and so on if everyone's distracted by so much invented, made-up stuff? I mean, it's already a problem now. A lot of the culture, a lot of people are just distracted by endless amounts of TikTok scrolling, memes and this sort of stuff. So a very interesting time. And one thing I'm noticing is that the companies that you see coming out of Silicon Valley, the big ed tech companies, the big tech companies actually are not really focused on this problem. They're not saying, how do we how do we have humanity focusing on the big problems? They're basically contributing to more and more distractions, more algorithms that give you more of the distractions that you asked for, and it's a problem. So very quickly, I'm just going to describe what the solution that I'm trying to work on, which is open education technology. And this started a couple of years ago in Barcelona with this group of people. We had a number of organizations and institutions that came together to kick this off. We did a lot of brainstorming. We came up with some basic principles. I haven't got time to read them all out here, but they're all important, and you can check on the video some of these principles. But in short, the idea of open edtech is how do we define ethical education technology that is built to solve problems, that is owned by institutions and does the right thing, essentially. So the core goal here is to build a global, open, high quality and standardized infrastructure that is created by and available to all educators and learners. And the reason why it makes sense to work together on this problem is that we can all benefit from solutions. As we come up with solutions, a little bit like MoodleNet is a solution to content, that once we have these open software solutions to these problems, everybody can benefit. And it's not a company that's going to disappear in 5 years. It's like an infrastructure. So we're moving from a current generation of open ed tech to this next generation, and I think it's going to take at least 3 years to get started, and probably more. And it really has to be aligned with these large standards bodies, W3C, that run the internet standards, web standards, and IEEE and organizations like that. So I have a very, very quick, I know I have probably running out of time, but just to give you some idea of the vision here, there is an open edtech cloud, and in there are OERs, open education resources, educator classrooms, learner dashboards, and organization environments. So firstly, that cloud can be built on these Web3 technologies and standards. These are I could mention blockchain, but that might make you think about cryptocurrencies and things. It's not about that. What it is about how do we federate the technology so that you could imagine every institution in the world contributing a couple of servers to this cloud, and they all work together to form a shared resource. And a good example of that is email. Nobody owns email, but we all use email every day. For 40 years, we've been using email. That is a system that nobody owns, but everyone uses. And we can build more things like that. The second thing here is open education resources. I think MoodleNet is our first step in that direction. I think there's more that we can do, particularly focusing on quality and accuracy. So how do we ensure that we have a high quality collection of resources for educators to use? Because if you just do a Google search and you turn up random articles, which could be fake, that's not a good education. We need to be sure about the quality of the content that we use in education, and that's what this is about. The third one is that I believe we need to build an educated classroom that the teacher owns. The teacher has it for life. So you have a place in the cloud that is your classroom, and you keep building it for many, many years. So it's not a bunch of PDFs on your hard drive. There's something out on the cloud that's your space, where students come into your space, and all the teacher tools integrate there. And most importantly is for learners, that they must have a place in the internet that is theirs and it supports their learning. And a little bit like the skill trees in games, you could imagine it's helping you decide your next step as a learner, what to learn next, where to learn it, and there is an AI in there that is supporting you. And the AI is helping you make good decisions. It's telling you what to learn. It's prompting you. It's fitting that stuff into your life. So it knows you have time on Saturday afternoon. So it's going to start suggesting, why don't you study this and why don't you do that? And that's how we use AI more as an assistant. And then there's something similar for organizations as well, which I won't get too much into it. So that's a very rough outline. There's a very deep thing here, and I did say I was going to present a lot of information. But if you're interested in this, and what I'm trying to do with Open EdTech and the Open EdTech Association is to connect people into research groups around these components to start making more detailed long-range plans so that we can start building these things. And connecting funding to these projects and to help institutions come along for the journey. So there is a website about this at openedtech.global. It's it's not very exciting yet, the website, but I am spending more and more of my time on this now, actually, and less on Moodle. So you're going to see this developing as we start having these research groups coming together. But hopefully you agree with the goals. That we want to keep education technology open. We can't have Facebook running our education, right? We've seen how that goes. We can't have big tech companies driven by profits running education. Education should be run by education institutions and by our taxes, building open education by educators. So that's something that I've been working a lot on lately. And you can email me. You can also contact me on Matrix if you like. Matrix is an open messaging system. It's very similar to WhatsApp or Telegram or Slack, but this is an open system that works like email. So if you haven't heard of Matrix before, you can reach me there on Matrix. And I'm very happy to hear from you. So thank you. Now, if we have a couple of minutes, I'm very happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Thank you very much. Actually, I myself personally learned a lot from your speech, and I'm sure that all the audience benefited a lot from your speech. Please stay with us because there are many questions posed by the audience, and the webinar team compiled them and will be shown and asked by me, read by me, and we will give you the allocated time to answer them after the end of the program, after the second speech. Of course, if you prefer in this way.
Wasn't quite sure, was that a question
okay
for me?
For you, if that's okay for you, we will give you enough allocated time to answer the questions raised during your speech. And if you feel that you have answered them during your speech, you can let us know to skip it to the next question while we are displaying the questions asked from you in the question and answer section at the end of the program. Okay?
Okay. So you just want me to...
Please stay with us.
Do you want me to go through the chat, or you want to do it? Did you say you want to do it after, at the end, did you?
If you like. It is depending on your preference. If you prefer...
Well, now is always a good time now. Short feedback loops are good in education, so before everyone forgets. But I'm reading through the...
Okay. So I asked the webinar team to show the display the questions on the screen, and you
great. Okay, great. Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, now I see what you're talking about. Okay, good.
Yes. The first question is, we are using Moodle. Maybe it is from Dr. Kamran Mir from Pakistan. And he asked,
yes,
we are using Moodle for more than 1 million students, more than 3 million course enrollment every year. It's becoming very hard to manage Moodle at a large scale. At the end of 1 to 2 semesters, we have to open deeply new instance and archive previous instances to manage their load. or performances.
Yes.
For some classes, we are using DBB, that is 25 plus instances managed with escalated load balances. Sorry, my screen cannot show it clearly. Would
That's
you
okay.
have some guidelines to manage a large scale in a more better way, as the current technologies we are using are not very sustainable model? Thank you. It is a question asked by Mr. Kamran Mir from Pakistan.
Yeah. You maybe don't need to read them all because I'm conscious of the time, and but I can happy to answer this. So 1 million students is a lot to manage anywhere. It does take work. Nothing is free, and what I mean is that if you have 1 million people doing anything, you're going to need to support them. So you need servers and you need the right technology. It doesn't matter what that technology is, what sort of software it is, you're going to need resources. The largest Moodle site that I know of is the Open University of China, and they have 3.5 million students on one Moodle site. But they also have a staff of 35 people who maintain the system, and their server, the amount of servers they have is quite mind-boggling. So if you want help, if you need help with the design of the system, we offer through our Moodle partners on Moodle.com. We offer that as a service. That's something that our partners do, and we can also connect you with other bigger users like Open University of China, and maybe there's some sharing that can go on in the community as well. But yes, large installations require large solutions, and you just need to do that work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next question, please. The question is by Muhammad Rizal.
Yes. Well, the difficulties, I've been working on this for over 20 years. It's been, mostly a process of problem solving, obviously, and it's listening to people, studying what they're doing, also applying research in neuroscience, in psychology, in education theory, and trying to apply all of those together. And I could talk a long time about this, but the approach with Moodle, and the reason the M in Moodle means modular, right? It's a modular, object-oriented, dynamic learning environment. The modular nature of Moodle means that it's like an operating system, and you can use different plugins at different times. You can create your own plugins and modules. You can, we have 2,000 plugins created by the community that do different things. And that modular structure means you can build or change the environment to whatever you need. And that's why it works in so many different environments. So I think that was the best decision I ever made, was to make it that modular structure. I think that's the answer to that question.
Thank you for answering this question. And now the next question, please. Thank you, Martin. This question again is from Afifa Rahmatian from Jakarta. The time is yours. Please answer this question.
Yeah. Well, as really, people need digital skills. And in those competencies of the MEC, a lot of those competencies are digital skills for teachers. But also, there is in there the competency of a teacher giving those digital skills to students. And look, it's not always a problem. A lot of students are growing up with phones since they're young, and technology in their hands. So it's often more a problem that the teachers don't have the digital skills, I think. But generally, though, everyone needs those skills, right? We need them for life. So you can't avoid it. We need to tackle it head on. And one way is to have a kind of like a digital driver's license, if you like. So maybe when you come into the university, you have to take a little course that teaches you the basics of how to use all the technology. I mean, you have to do that. So that's the main approach.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sure that we got their answer. And the next question, please. This question is again from Dr. Kamran Mir from University, Pakistan. If the time is yours to answer this question, please.
Yeah, so the MEC is conducted online by my staff, and I have to pay them because they need to eat. And so we do charge for the assessment because human beings actually have to look at your work and assess your work. I'm sure you would want to be paid for your work, and we this just makes good sense that you should pay for people's work. What we have done, though, is made the courses free. You can learn everything you want on Moodle Academy for free. So you don't have to pay to learn anything. It's just if you want the certification, then we charge. And really, we've kept it as cheap as we possibly can. 200 euros is not very much. In the scheme of things. So if you really, really want the certification, then unfortunately, we don't really have discounts because please remember our software is all free as well. So we give away everything.
Thank you for your question and thank you for your answers and pointing directly to the answer. And the next question, please, from University Terbuka, Indonesia, from Andre. I think after this, we have another more question.
Yeah. Well, so Moodle 4.0 is available. Your universities you need to upgrade your own sites, though, to have access to the latest version. And does it support face-to-face learning? Yes, of course. Moodle always can be useful in a face-to-face learning environment. Of course, you can put things on the screen, and with a blended learning, you do some things online and some things face-to-face, and that's it definitely works for that too. So yeah, thanks for the question.
Again, thank you. And the last question in this part, please, here from Payame from Indonesia again.
Yes. Sorry. So managing Moodle, my organisation, Moodle HQ, we usually call it, Moodle headquarters, is 160 people. We have some people in Indonesia. We have some people, we're probably about 1/3 of us are in Western Australia, about 1/3 are in Spain, and about 1/3 are in the US. And there's other people who are scattered everywhere in South America, around Europe, and we are about to add a lot more people in India. And it's very global. So we operate as a pretty normal software company, except, and by which I mean normal product development and that you do in software development. The difference is that, of course, we have an open source community and we have a big community of developers who contribute and users as well. So one of our teams is the UX team, and the UX team, or user experience, are focused on understanding what is it people need, what do they want, what's not working, what is working, and turning that into new designs and for Moodle. And that's a process that's we're always improving, and you'll see some big improvements coming to Moodle.org, which is our main community site, and it'll really open up the front page. It's not going to talk about Moodle. It's just going to say Moodle 4.1 is coming, and these are the things we're working on, and this is how you can be part of it. It'll invite people more into the process.
Thank you for the question. And I see that there is another more question here. Sorry, I was told that this was the last one, but there is another question. It's kind of you to answer this one, please.
Well,
Jakarta.
So I think the very, very best education that you can have is face-to-face with one person. So a mentor. If you have a guru mentor who is expert in something and you're working with them every day face-to-face, that is literally the best education I can imagine, right? However, the practicalities are that we can't always do that. So we have to add more people. We have to manage larger groups of people. And the reason why digital is good is because once things are digital, you have more flexibility in time, in space. You can have automatic translation. You can store stuff for infinite time periods. You can regenerate the content. You can play with it because once it's digital, you can do things with it. And that's why online learning and digital-based learning internet-based learning is such an important part of all education from now on, for the same reasons that we get into the internet for everything else.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Martin. If there is any additional questions, we will show at the end of the webinar because of the limitation of the time. I myself enjoyed a lot and benefited your answers to the questions of the audience, and I'm very glad to be here with you and learn a lot from you. This is a very helpful session. Thank you very much, Dr. Martin.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Maybe there are more questions and we will show them later at the end of the webinar. Now, before introducing, the time is for Dr. The next speaker, Dr. Christothea. Before introducing her, please let me remind the webinar regulations for those who just joined us in the webinar. As you notice, there are some, during the speech, you may encounter some questions. You can write the questions in the chat box like the other audiences, participants, but you need to write your name, institution, and country as well, and also the intended speaker. And then the questions in this stage, the questions will be like this one, will be shown on the screen, and the speaker will answer them. But if you'd like to get the electronic certificate, please register on the website by filling out the registration form. You ask the certificate, but you need to follow the whole program. And after following the whole program, you need to fill out the feedback form, and which is shown at the end of the program. After that, you can follow and proceed with the process of getting your certificate. Now, please let me introduce Dr. Christothea Herodotou, the Associate Professor at the Open University, United Kingdom. I nearly introduce her. She has extensive expertise in the evidence-based design and evaluation of technologies for learning, including online platforms, mobile applications, and digital games, through innovative research methodologies, including learning analytics. She holds funding from the National Science Foundation, Wellcome Trust, and ESRC to improve the design of online citizen science platforms and make science learning more accessible and productive to young people. She is also academic lead of Enquire, which is a citizen science platform developed in partnership with the BBC, aiming to engage the public in all the stages of scientific research. She is also the academic lead of the Early Alert Indicators Project, a university-wide initiative that assesses the predictive learning analytic interventions and their impact on students' performance and attainment. The project has received multiple awards, for research impact and excellence in teaching. We're great, Dr. Moon. Dr. Christothea, it makes me proud to read your bio here. She's a senior fellow of the Higher Education Academy and an honorary associate of UCL. She received her Ph.D. degree in digital games and psychology from the University College London and her Master in Education, Technology and Society from the University of Bristol. There are a lot of information about Dr. Christothea, which the time is not enough for mentioning her CV. You can refer to her site, which is shown on the screen here, in order to know more about her. Dr. Christothea, nice to meet you here, and I'm very pleased to be one of the participants and to listen to your speech. We all are excited and waiting for your speech. The mic is yours. Please.
Thank you so much for the introductions and for inviting me to this very interesting seminar. I assume that you can hear me well, isn't it? Can you hear me well?
You have 30 minutes time, Dr.
Yeah, okay.
Your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much. So my presentation has to do with sustainable education, and it's a suggestion that resulted from the disruptions we face because of COVID-19. I will start off with some statistics as to how COVID-19 has impacted the life of learners. As you know, the Sustainable Development Goal 4 is about the quality and lifelong education, and it's one of the aims of the United Nations. And as you see here on this slide, more than 100 million learners have been affected during COVID. Their reading proficiency levels when below the average. And this means that a lot of kids and learners face difficulties during COVID. The question raised is, what can we do if we have to face a similar situation in the future? What if there is another lockdown? What if children cannot attend schools physically? And I guess my suggestion has to do with this, how we can support sustainable education in the future. So I will talk in particular about the three main themes, which is learning design and learning analytics, assessment, and practical science work. The reason I focus on these three topics is because during COVID, we had to face several challenges. And I note some here, like how can we design and deliver courses online? How can we deliver exams from a distance when the norm it is to attend these face-to-face? How to access laboratories and do field work, especially for students attending practical science modules. And how can we monitor our students from distance and know that they are progressing or they are doing well? So in response to these challenges and questions, I'm going to talk about these areas. The first one is learning design, and what we saw during COVID is that universities, especially the campus-based one, used to varied and different ways of teaching, from recording lectures to sharing material online or using flipped classroom methods of teaching. Most of the cases, these were very fast and quick implementations of online or blended learning, and because of that, we've had a lot of concerns and a lot of criticism, and there was no evidence as to whether what it was implemented online works and for whom of our students. And a lot of people raise issues about the quality of learning distance students are receiving during COVID because of how fast these implementations took place. In response to that, the Open University in England designed and shared a number of templates based on a theory, a framework that it was designed more than 10 years ago, which is called learning design. So learning design is a methodology that can help teachers make informed decisions in how they go about designing learning activities and intervention. It's a pedagogically informed way of teaching online that uses online resources and technologies. And I will give you some more details of that because this is quite vague. So this is what the learning design framework looks like. In a way, it details the different types of activities one can hold online while teaching. And you have the main ones here listed. Assimilative are activities that are asking students to read something, watch a video, or listen to a podcast. Communicative activities are asking students to discuss with others a topic, debate a topic, and try their argumentation skills. Finding and handling information is about asking students to search and find information, then possibly list and order this information. Productive are activities that are asking students to create an artifact, build a new material, a new piece of code, for example. And practice is about applying what they learn in a real world setting. In addition, and across all of these types is assessment, and assessment can actually take the form of any of those activities I mentioned earlier. So what you could do when you design a course is to define and decide what activities you're going to use. The question here is which of these activities are working more or better for students, and I will share for that one of the many actually pieces of research we've done at the OU, which in a way shows which of these activities are more effective and can actually lead to better learning outcomes. So in this study, we examined 151 online courses of the OU. We found out that the design of those courses mainly host assimilative and assessment activities. And to remind you, assimilative are activities that are asking students to read a piece of text, watch, or listen to something. So most, in these courses, the main type of activity, let's say, was assimilative. And of course, assessment, because they need to be assessed to get the final grade. The next step was to capture the behavior of students in these courses. And then we ran a multiple regression analysis from which we found out that the learning design of a course, so how a course is designed and what activities are hosted in a course, can actually predict the behavior of students. What was related to academic performance and retention was the time spent on communication activities. So the activities that most helped students perform well was communication. They were asking students to discuss material, for example, which in a way contradicts a little bit how those courses are designed because they are mainly focusing on assimilative activities, while actually students are likely to learn more from communication activities. So what is important here is when we are designing courses online is to think of how we are going to engage social elements in our design, because it seems that for distance students, these kind of activities and elements are very beneficial. The second element I want to touch upon is assessment. And most of you know that assessment can be ongoing while a course is running, or final assessment in the end of a course in the form, for example, of an exam. The question here, and because of COVID, is do we really need exams? Well, what we know is that there are benefits in exams, like students can reflect on what they've learned, they can consolidate their learning, they can be a motivation to complete a course. And also there is a status of awards when there are final exams. On the other hand, there are a lot of issues around stress and negative impact on students' mental health and well-being when they are asked to sit an exam. So there are both pros and cons when we are asking students to take an exam. What happened at the OU during COVID, while all of the exams were normally taking place on campus face-to-face. It's the only element that used to be face-to-face before COVID. During COVID, the exams were moved online remotely. So students, they had a time window within which they had to submit their answers. And also most of these exams were open book. So there was no issue of cheating because students were allowed to access their books and material, read through and find answers through the material they had for a course. Also there were automatic assessments added to what was normally happening, like quizzes with closed and open-ended questions. So there was a change to accommodate COVID. But I guess the issues we need to consider is the future of assessment. And Martin earlier made comments to some technology developments that actually may change the way assessment is done. I will touch on GPT-3 as well in my next slide. Here, I just want to draw your attention on a software that has been designed at the Open University and which is AI-based. And the whole idea is that it wants to help students structure assignments, good assignments. So it can identify key points in an essay and encourages students to reflect and improve their writings. As you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, the top picture shows an essay that was awarded a high grade. And as you can see here, the different parts of the essay, like the introduction, conclusion, discussions, are tightly together. They are very close to each other. While an essay that was awarded a low grade, these elements were spread, I would say, across. So it gives you an indication of whether your essay is good or bad, this software. And also it gives you time to go back and change and improve what you have produced. It was tested here, I want to say, with master course students, and we had better results when students were actually using the software. And also they had more iterations to change and improve their assignment. The next point I want to raise about assessment is actually something that Martin illustrated really well with really nice examples and pictures and text that can be automatically produced by a computer, by AI. And I know that the question here is, do we need assessments that are asking students to produce a piece of writing? Well, what I would say is that this may actually be an opportunity to change the way we are assessing students. The aim, maybe we should actually change the aim of the assessment. Maybe the aim shouldn't be to produce a piece of writing. Maybe the aim should be to assess whether the piece of writing produced by the computer is a fake or a real one. So in a way, the aim for the students is to go online, search and find information, compare information, and identify which of those elements of the assignment given to them has actually been correctly produced by the computer and whether there are elements that are fake. And here in this example, it was an assignment about learning styles, that there is a myth around learning styles, that it was produced by GPT-3. But what we noted after this production of text by AI was that the references were actually not real, were fake. So the computer put together names and journals and created a plausible looking reference, but actually this was fake. So maybe this could actually be an opportunity for students to develop critical thinking skills and find ways to identify fake from real information on the internet. The other aspect I want to briefly discuss has to do with practical science work. And this was actually a major challenge during COVID because students could not access laboratories and could not go out and do field work. Here briefly and historically, I want to say that the OU, since its establishment in 1969, used to deliver this kind of practical science work from a distance, either through radio productions or TV demonstrations of experiments, or at some point students were receiving experiment kits at home and they could actually run the experiments by themselves. What has changed a few years ago is that a lot of simulation software has been created, which in a way helps students manipulate variables and run experiments on their screen without the need of physical equipment or TV or radio demonstrations. And I will share here the website we have at the OU, where we gather together all of these simulation-based software that students can use to either in their courses or if they want to learn something using simulations. And I will briefly mention some of the tools that are on this website. Maybe one of the most exciting one are these two telescopes that are in Tenerife. They are actual real telescopes. The innovation, I would say, is that students can control those telescopes from their computers or from their mobile phones. So, for example, the COAST telescope, it can show you the sky, and you can make a request of an object you want a picture for. So the telescope can take a picture of that and send it over to your computer. Of course, in addition to that, you can access and view the sky at any time from your computer through those telescopes. The other tool that is simulation-based is a virtual microscope, which in a way simulates very well a real microscope. The advantage here is that for a teacher, all of the students can actually look at the same slide, and a teacher can tell where a student is looking at. So in a way, it can help a teacher understand what they are looking at and give feedback as needed. And the last two tools I want to comment on are citizen science tools. I don't know how familiar you are with citizen science, but citizen science is about the general public, any of us, and how we take part in research activities. And I know that most of you may be thinking that we are normally completing a survey or giving an interview. What I want to say is that citizen science move a step further. It's about working with people to create research based on their own needs. And here we have the iSpot software, which helps people identify wildlife. So you can take a picture of a plant, put it up on iSpot, and the community there and some AI-based algorithms can give you an identification of what your plant is. Or whether it was found in other places on Earth. The other platform we have designed is the Enquire platform, and this is about helping people design and manage their own scientific studies, especially those people with limited, I would say, experience and background in doing research. And the idea here is that when you take part in research, this could actually turn into a learning experience. So we want people when they're giving their data to scientists to actually be learning something out of it. And they can do this by taking part in studies that are designed in an educational way, or by helping them design their own studies. And the reason we designed this is because we want to help people start thinking critically and scientifically, understand and assess better the information around us, ideally change their science attitudes and come a bit closer to what science can offer to people, and also maybe rebuild the lost trust with science, which we saw, in debates, especially during COVID. So we have, the platform has several features that turn taking part in research into a learning experience, like immediate feedback and personalized feedback after you take part in a study. There are live data graphs and visualizations of what the data looks like while it is collected. And also you have the option of reading and commenting and liking on what others are saying to a survey. And all these features are ways to open data to people, to enable them to understand how data and new knowledge is generated, and ideally help them start thinking scientifically in the future. The last thing I want to comment on has to do with predictive learning analytics. You may know that the learning analytics show what students are doing online, what activities they engage with, how long they engage with, what are the pathways of engagement, and how this engagement may relate to learning outcomes. Predictive learning analytics move a step forward. And this is about forecasting student outcomes in order for teachers to intervene and support students before they fail. We have designed a tool for that, and I'm going to show it in the next slides. And we found out that when teachers are accessing predictive learning analytics, they find it easier to manage their students online. Students, on the other hand, can have better learning outcomes because teachers can give them support before they fail. And also there is, recently we produced evidence showing that they can help in particular students that are more likely to fail, that are coming from specific backgrounds, for example, or are facing specific difficulties. So in a way, it can minimize the degree awarding gap we observed in many studies. So this is the tool you have that hosts predictive learning analytics is named OU Analyze, and actually received multiple awards. Perhaps the most important one was the second award in the UNESCO ICT in Education Prize, which was out of 73 entries across the world. And it received this award because of the way it can support learning and development. So that's what it looks like. It's a dashboard that teachers can access. And in this dashboard, they can get information about each of the students they monitor. They can see who of their students are at risk of failing and who of their students are performing well. And this is shown through a traffic light system where in green are students that are performing fine, in amber are students that are have a probability of not doing well, and in red are students that are likely to fail. So what we ask them to do is to check this dashboard weekly, because the predictions of students are changing and are updated once a week, and make sure they get in touch with those students in particular that are flagged as red or amber, and offer them help. And this is these two slides are actually showing the elements of this dashboard. These are supposed to be the students and their probability of passing the course. And here you can see on this graph their engagement with VLE, which is measured based on clicks. So whether they went online and they click on the module material. The bars show the assignments and the score in the previous presentation of the course and the score in the current presentation of the course. So in a way, the teacher can tell how good the students are doing compared to last year. Here I have an example of a student. I would just very briefly say that it is a tool that can support any student, because sometimes students may be facing personal or family issues, and this may inhibit their studying, and they may face difficulties in completing a course. And here is the example of a female engineering student from a Black and minority ethnic background, who, despite the fact that she was doing really good, at some point her activity flattened, went very low. And we found out what was happening because the teacher had access to OU Analyze, to predictive learning analytics. And when she saw that there was inactivity in weeks 9, 10, and 11, is circled here in red, she gave her a call, and she found out that she was pregnant, and that she didn't feel comfortable to share it with the university because she thought that the university would make her stop her studies, which of course would never happen. But after communication with the teacher, this student got an extension for a few weeks, and she actually managed to submit and get a very high mark for her assignment. And this also happened after she gave birth of her child. Again, the teacher intervened, supported her as she needed, and in the end she managed to finish the course with a very high score of 80%. Without this system, the teacher couldn't tell if she was struggling, because the performance at the start of the course, her performance was really good, so she couldn't think or figure out that something was happening in her life. I'm just coding here that online students are not invisible students, and that we have the tools and the human-centered analytics to see them and support them when they need to. My very last slide has to do with the skills and competences our students should develop. And I think the previous talk as well touched upon skills and knowledge we should be developing, given that everything is changing in our society, technology is changing our everyday life. What I brought here is the OECD learning goals for 2030. And it's actually talking about 3 transformative competences, which are creating new value, reconciling tensions and dilemmas, and taking responsibility. And these are 3 competences that I would say are quite transferable across different learning contexts. And they are, at least at the moment, uniquely human, so they cannot copied or replicated by AI, at least at the moment. So it's about students creating new value, trying to think outside of the box in order to find innovative solutions. And this has to do with curiosity, critical thinking, creativity. The second one has to do with students learning to balance contradictory arguments and becoming comfortable in facing different opinions and complexity. And this has to do with cognitive flexibility, perspective-taking skills, empathy. And the third one has to do with our responsibility for our actions and a strong moral compass. So it's about ethics and how ethics are actually defining what students are learning. And of course, to achieve this, students should develop a sense of reflection, self-awareness, and respecting others on the planet. So the question here is that we need to think of how we should design learning experiences in ways that these competences could be developed. And my very last slide is just a few summary takeaway messages. I think what COVID caused, it was definitely not something positive. But on the other hand, we could see there's an opportunity to rethink how education is delivered and how we create educational experiences and how agile and flexible are those educational systems that they can work no matter whether another pandemic comes up in the future. And this kind of flexible teaching programs, I would say, they should focus on competences like the one I just mentioned, and also be focused on developing skills that students will need when they start, when they grow up and they start working in this ever-changing technology-oriented world, I would say. For sure, technological innovation should be part of any teaching innovation. And we've seen AI overtaking nearly all of the aspects of learning. We have seen augmented reality changing what students are seeing and interacting with. And we've also seen automated feedback systems. So we need to reconsider of teaching, learning, and assessment, considering for what students need, of what should the student-teacher relationship look like, and also keeping an eye on students' well-being and good mental health. So whatever we do, it should be respectful of students' well-being and mental health. And I want to close by saying that we shouldn't assume that all of the students have access to all of these technologies. There is a big gap between students that are highly digitized and connected and those that are underconnected. So whatever we design something, we should be considered about the realities of the students and whether technology, as we assume or as we see it, is actually the way those students can access it. So our pedagogy should consider for equality and equity, and we should try to design systems that remove any barriers to educational achievement. So in a way, we can help each student succeed regardless of their backgrounds or specific characteristics. I would like to thank you so much for listening, and I will be more than happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thea, for your nice presentation. And thank you for sharing your nice experience here. I must appoint another audience. I benefited a lot from your speech. And also, actually, your speech reminded me of hard times of COVID, when most sections were closed except for the education part due to the existence of online and distance learning tools. However, initially, those who were not fully familiar with the tools, with the ODL system, encountered some challenges, including examination and assessment, because education cannot be beneficial without the assessment, and some of the institutions, the beginners, encountered problems with assessment, online assessment, in the educational processes. However, you mentioned some benefits of online assessments, and your notes are very important for the educators. First of all, I learned from your speech the benefit of constant interaction between teachers and the students, and also the benefit of committed evaluation or systematic evaluation, because you referred to the constant regular examinations such as quizzes and the self-assessment and the feedback throughout the courses. This is the benefit of the formative evaluation, that the students can assess their progress throughout the courses. And it is one of the benefits of online examination assessment. Also, the constant monitoring of teachers in the classroom and getting feedback from the students is one of the other benefits of these systems. And using the open books also, and keeping the teachers updated and empowering teachers and being updated in using technological tools in education can be mentioned as one of the other benefits of this type of ODL and online assessments that was mentioned by you. I am very happy to participate in this seminar. I learned a lot from you and Dr. Martin also, and I know that some participants have some questions. Please ask the questions. Are you ready to answer their questions?
Yes, I could do it now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. And our colleagues, and yes, the first question is from Amira from Malaysia. Would you please to answer the question? The time is yours.
Well, the question is about, I guess, a more general question about what challenges I saw students struggling with when they are writing essays. Well, I guess one of the main things is how they can put together and the resources and information they read as preparation for their assignment. So they may be reading different resources online, and then they are asked to put this into a narrative. And normally there is a challenge there as to how they are writing about those other people that may be supporting the argument they want to make. Also, the second thing is that is the consistency, because they may start with an aim, but in a way, instead of developing that aim and structuring an argument around that aim to meet that aim and support it, in a way they start writing about things that are not closely related or relevant. So I guess maybe a good starting point should be to structure your thoughts and your argument, some bullet points, let's say, and then try to expand this into a narrative or into an assignment. But I'm sure there are other ways of doing that. It's just about a coherent piece of writing, and to achieve that, you need to have a plan as to what you want to write.
Thank you very much for your answer. Please, next question. My colleague.
Just a second to read this.
Please answer this one.
Well, about learning analytics, we have developed a lot of, especially because of that, because you have access to all of these student data, historical data from years before. We have different dashboards. We have learning analytics dashboards and predictive learning analytics dashboard that I talked about briefly in my talk. The learning analytics dashboards, in a way, they show the module, the different elements of a module, and how students engage with those elements. And this kind of information is given to the module designers to reflect on, and it is used to redesign the course the next year in order to, let's say that for some weeks there is low participation. They can go in the module, check the material of these weeks, and try to make changes to improve or make it more engaging. So they are using actually constantly this kind of resources in order to improve the design of courses. And of course, on the other hand, to support students in the case of predictive learning analytics I talked earlier.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your answer. I'm also benefited from your answer. And the next question, please. We have 5 questions here, and there are 3 more left by this one. From Omar, from Gambia. Please.
Well, it's a very good question, actually. What is the student's understanding of those tools? And maybe I will bring here my personal experience of researching the use of the virtual microscope in OU courses. And it was quite surprising, because what we found out from surveying and interviewing students was that they really acknowledge the fact that they could access their slides from anywhere from their computer, and it was very convenient. But on the other hand, they raised the need for support the moment they interpret a slide. So they were unsure whether what they are looking at or what they are making meaning of is actually right or wrong. And this led us to now try some kind of interventions to see how we can provide this support. And one way of doing that is to build support into the virtual microscope. So when they are actually looking at something, some pop-up windows can give them more insights to help them understand that what they are looking at is correct or not. The other intervention we tried was to provide live support. So when they were interacting with those slides on the virtual microscope, they knew that during the day at a specific time, a teacher would be online to answer any questions they may have. But it seems that those tools need a lot of feedback, and sometimes automated feedback, to ensure that students understand what we want them to understand when they are interacting with them.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your questions, the audience, because these questions can be raised by the other audience. And now this is the next one, by Kamran from Pakistan. Questions are very
this is an interesting one, actually. It's about the spatial learning analytics. Well, I'm not aware of something at the moment and off the top of my head, but I know that a lot of universities are doing research in the area, and it's likely that something is under development that I'm not aware of. But just now, off the top of my head, I cannot think of something to suggest. I'm sorry for that.
Thank you. And I think the last question. From Adam from Singapore, please. Thank you very much for answering this question also, Dr. Tia.
Well, the relationship between students and teachers. And I mean, we know from research that the teacher's presence online can actually affect learning. And when a teacher is present online, can help with learning. The model the OU uses to run modules is that for every 20 students, there is a teacher that is supporting those 20 students, is resolving any questions, is marking assignments, and is giving feedback in preparation of the assignments. So in a way, the OU students, at least, they know that they have a human touch point they can get in touch with if they need help and support. And I do think personally that students need to feel connected to a teacher or to someone they can go and ask for help if they need to. But I know on the other hand that this model may be resource intensive and may not be doable if we are talking about millions of students. Of course, the OU has actually a considerable number of students. At the the moment, we have more than 160,000 students. And this model is run especially because of that, because they believe that human interaction is important and that this can actually help with student outcomes. And this is the reason why we have one teacher every 20 students to moderate the process of learning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thea. And I think it was the last question here. And also there were some questions for Dr. Martin, but he answered the questions directly on the chat box. And again, I'm very grateful to be here and getting the knowledge, knowledge from you and Dr. Martin. And thank you for sharing your experience and knowledge to the audience. I believe benefited a lot. And now this is the last part of the session, and I am turning over to the main host by wishing a world full of peace and health for everyone. Thank you very much for
thank you, Dr.
Hosseini.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It is a very interesting presentation and also question and answer. And first, before we proceed to the end of our session, I would like to thank Dr. Hosseini, Dr. Martin Dougiamas, and also Dr. Christothea for the participation. And now is the virtual certificate awarding as a symbol of appreciation for the keynote speakers and the moderator. For the first one is presented to Dr. Martin Dougiamas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the second one is presented to Dr. Christothea Herodotou.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was an honor. Thank you.
And the last one goes to Dr. Monirosadat Hosseini.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And once again, I would like to thank Dr. Martin Dougiamas. And then it is a very honor for the AAOU to have you with the webinar. As we know that we are the Moodle user, and then this is we are very fortunate to hear your presentation, and also to Dr. Christothea Herodotou for the very interesting presentation, and also for Dr. Monirosadat Hosseini for leading lively discussion. Thanks to all parties, to the AAOU member, and also to the AAOU 5 researchers who have shared our information to the groups, and also to Universitas Terbuka, to the Rector of Universitas Terbuka, as well as the President of the AAOU for supporting the AAOU webinar. And then the last but not the least, we are from the AAOU Secretariat are pleased to encourage everyone to submit your paper to the AAOU journal. For your information that the AAOU journal is now indexed in Scopus. And also for you whose paper, whose article published in the AAOU journal, you will have a registration fee free that provided by the AAOU Secretariat. Don't forget to write down that the AAOU, the 35th AAOU conference this year will be on the 2nd to 4th November 2022. Last, don't forget to fill out the feedback that we are preparing in the last slide. To complete the feedback is a condition for you to get the e-certificate. So don't forget to make sure that you complete the feedback to have the certificate. We also would like to inform you that the link will be closed 3 hours from now. Well, once again, Ladies and gentlemen, also to the President of the OU, thank you for attending this interesting seminar. See you again in the next webinar with different keynote speaker, different moderators, and then for you who wants to participate as a moderator or a keynote speaker, please contact the AAOU Secretariat through our email. To know our email, please check our website. Thank you very much and have a good day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and see you in the next AAOU webinar. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.